I was at Blue down at, it's actually Warwick, it's East Greenwich, they call it East Greenwich. No, that's East Greenwich, that one's East Greenwich, the other one's Warwick, Cellos, who owns Blue.
Yep.
And these guys come in, hats on sideways, these three guys, three kids. I couldn't believe they let them in. And they got a fucking pit bull. This was Friday night, the joint's mob.
Coming in with a pit bull?
They bring the pit bull in, and the kid's sitting at the bar, and he puts the bar this way, the water's right here, it's only about 6 feet, literally, between the bar and the railing. People trying to walk by. All it would take was some of the stuff on that doorstep.
Yeah.
And this thing had a head on him like you would believe. So you started, you didn't wait, huh? And welcome to another edition of An Hour with Bob. Here we are on this beautiful, very warm Monday evening. Here, what do we got? July 15th, 2013, and all week it's got to be hot. Anything to do with that warming, global warming? Does that have anything to do with this? It's got to be hot. I mean, the average we have in the course of a year is 11 days of 90-degree weather. I think we've already had five or six. So we're getting up there. Anyway, folks, couple things. Anyone that has had a knee replacement, and I'd like to know how you've done, especially if it's taken more than a year. Mine's 15 months into it, and my knee's still killing me, and I'm hoping that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm hoping that all of a sudden I'll wake up one morning, my knee's not going to hurt anymore. Anyway, we're looking to add a few crew members. If you're a student, college student especially, high school student even, and you want to learn TV production right here in Pawtucket, we shoot the show every other Monday night. You'd be here from like 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. You meet some interesting people, have some fun. You'll make as much money as I make on the show too. It's nothing, but you'd have fun and you'd learn stuff. You'd learn how to operate cameras, how to run the audio, how to run the character generator, how to direct. You learn a lot of things, a lot of valuable lessons here on An Hour with Bob. So get a hold of me if you want to learn how to do TV production, or you're taking TV production, even communications at college or high school, and you want to learn more hands-on. This is the way to go, hands-on. Bob@bobsadventures.com. That's Bob@bobsadventures.com, or An Hour with Bob on Facebook or on Twitter. Either one you can get a hold of. Any one of those three ways you can get a hold of me. I got to talk about this. The legislation in Pawtucket, the legislation in the state that will remove the ban Pawtucket has on pit bulls is a huge mistake. I don't know if it's passed yet. I know and first of all, I don't understand why the legislator that submitted the bill. He submitted the bill because I think his daughter works for an animal rescue league, and these poor pit bulls. Well, how about the poor people that have been bit by pit bulls? I got a couple of statistics I want to run by you. From 2005 to 2012, pit bulls have killed 151 Americans. That's one American every 19 days. That's amazing. I recall right in my neighborhood in Pawtucket years ago, a little girl, an infant girl, house pit bull, the family dog, was on the floor with the little girl playing with the dog. That, I don't know, she must have poked him in the eye or grabbed his tail or something. The kid, I didn't even think walked yet. And the dog latched onto that kid's face and did not let go of that kid's face until the cops came and actually did away with the dog. That's the only way they got that dog off that kid. They tried spray, they started hitting him with clubs and everything. They couldn't get the the pit bull off that kit. And this is a family pit bull. And the annual data from 2012, from last year, 23 people in the United States have been killed by pit bulls. And half of the victims are children. And get this one, children under the age of 8. And most of the half of those people, most of the 12 that were killed by pit bulls last year, were under 2 years old. Under 2 years old. So think about that next time you want to stick up for the pit bulls. I don't think they belong in a house situation. They're bred to fight. They're very dangerous dogs. They're the only animal that is compared to a shark when it comes to its ability to bite and its force of the bite. It's well documented by humane groups that to excel in dog fighting, pit bulls were selectively bred to conceal warning signs prior to an attack. In other words, they don't bark, they don't growl, they don't even stare at you. They just attack, and you got a big problem when they attack. In fact, in 2009, the U.S. Marines and the United States Army banned pit bulls from bases, and they banned pit bulls from military housing. So what does that tell you? And it says, this was from the commander of the base in, where the heck was this? I don't have the name of the base here. Anyway, this specific breeds present an unreasonable risk to the health and safety of our residents and are therefore prohibited. And I found out going online, the Newport Navy base has a similar ban. So if you want to check out about pit bulls, go to dogsbite.org. That's where I got my information. www.dogsbite.org. Now that I got that out, oh, that was oh, what the heck? I almost had it too. Where it was? It wasn't. What's the base? What's the base in North Carolina? Camp Lejeune. Camp Lejeune. I'm sorry, folks. I lost myself. Hey, who have I got with me tonight? I got the commissioner of Providence, safety commissioner, right?
Public
safety commissioner of
Correct.
the city of Providence, head of the police and fire, right?
Correct. That's right.
Stephen Pare. Pare.
Hey.
Pare. How do you say it? Pare.
Pare.
Now, they have that little mark over the E?
Accent aigu. Right.
Did you have that little mark over the E?
I did.
You did
Still
or you
use
do?
it. I still use it, yes.
Do you really?
I do.
Now, what does that mark mean? That's an
Just
accent.
an accent.
It's an
on the
accent
E,
to the E, right?
That's right.
Because I studied French for 4 years and can't speak 10 words of it. You know, comment ça va or something like that, but that's it.
That's right.
And how many words can you do?
Not many.
Not many.
Not many.
Well, it's like anything else. If you don't practice it, you're not going to do it. You know, it's not going to happen.
So true.
If you don't practice. So how you doing?
Things are good. Things are
Yeah?
good. Yeah. Providence, I've been there 2.5 years.
Yeah?
And it's been a challenge and a reward as well. There are a lot of good men and women that work extremely hard in both police and fire, and I have the communications group as well.
Now, first of all, you came from the state police.
Yes.
Now, you were at the state police how many years?
Just shy of 27 years.
Really? You look like such a young guy.
No,
You must
I'm
get
really-
that all the time.
I'm really old on the inside.
No, really, you're a young guy.
I'll be 53 tomorrow.
Are you serious? 53 tomorrow. What does that make you? What astrological thing
Cancer.
is that? I don't
It's a
follow
cancer.
that stuff.
Cancer.
You're a Cancer.
I'm a Cancer.
Oh, I didn't know it was that
So
bad.
I'm moody. as
You're
my
moody.
wi-
Is
as
that
my
what it
wife
is?
says, yeah.
Moody?
Moody.
You can't be moody on that job.
No, you can't be.
So what's happening in Providence? What is the job of the public safety director?
Well, I'm responsible for the
commissioner.
police and the fire.
And the fire department.
And our emergency management agency, which is just a handful of people, but they do great work with little resources.
Right.
And our communication. So when you call 911, it goes through the state 911 system, and then if it's a Providence call, it comes into our communications bureau.
Okay.
There's about 70 people there that take the call, dispatch the proper resources to both police and fire. So there's about 1,000 employees that work on the public safety team.
Wow.
And they do amazing work.
Now, when you say 1,000 people, are you including the police, the fire, and
Police, fire, and communications.
Now,
yes.
how does that break down? Here's something that maybe you can explain it to me. I never could understand. Providence has more firemen than they do policemen.
Just about, yes.
Just about, or?
Yeah, no, well, it depends. Right now, we're just running an academy, that's finishing in 3 weeks. So we'll be hiring about 55. And then
55 what?
55 firefighters.
Firefighters,
right.
yeah.
And then there's another academy beginning shortly thereafter.
Right.
And there'll be another 55. So we're going to be hiring about 110 firefighters. What they have in Providence is, for the fire, they have minimum manning.
I knew they have it in Pawtucket too.
Yeah,
When I worked
so-
in the mayor's office in Pawtucket, we dealt with that when we dealt with contracts.
Right, right.
You have to have so many on
you
the
have
shift.
to have 90 at all times
Wow.
on each of the groups.
It was 31 in Pawtucket.
And there are
back in
4
the day.
groups. So at minimum, you got to have 360 firefighters. And then others that train and do administrative work.
Wow. So
And
there's,
there's some in our communications bureau as well.
and there's like what, 360 cops and 460 firemen or something
well,
like that?
when I say when we're fully staffed on the fire side, there'll be more firefighters
Yeah.
than police officers.
Yeah.
Right now, there's about 410, 415 Providence police officers.
Right.
We're going to be building that back up to 440, 450
Right,
in the next 6 months or so.
Because I mean, I've dealt with the Providence police over the years many, many times for good things, for good reasons, and I've
Sure.
always had an awful lot of respect for local police departments.
Right.
And there is a big difference. Now
There is.
you've handled both ends of it. You were a state trooper,
I have.
and you're a local. Now you're running the local police and the local fire and everything else. Do you see the difference? Do you see?
Yeah, it's a huge difference. The mission is different. They have about 135,000 calls
versus what
in Providence.
Right.
Police.
That's
only.
unbelievable. Just
Only
police.
Yeah,
135,000 calls?
Yeah, another 45,000 on the fire side, of which.
See what I mean? There you go, right there. See, 135 versus 45.
Yeah.
Yet there's more firefighters.
Right. we're running a lot of rescue runs.
Right.
It's a
I wanted to
focus.
get into
Yeah,
that
it's a
too.
focus. So what's the difference? Well, in comparison, we may have, my recollection, 25 to 30,000 calls for the state police statewide.
Right.
It's just a different mission
Right.
that they have. We're no busier, but our mission is different in
And
Providence.
I think you have. I think it's more stressful, isn't it? Being a local cop than it would be being a state trooper.
It is, because you get
You get
all
more
kinds of
domestic stuff.
You get all kinds of calls.
More
constant.
dangerous stuff. That's when I couldn't believe, when I was working in the mayor's office years ago, there was an argument about who has a more dangerous job, a fireman or a policeman. And I say they're different jobs, first
are
of all.
different,
They're different
yes,
jobs.
right.
But I would have to think that I would rather be able to have a hose standing out in front of a building than have to walk up to a car with tinted windows. And I don't know how many people are inside that car, and I'm by myself.
But firefighters don't just hold
I
a
know that.
hose
No,
and,
no,
and
I know
shoot.
that.
They're
I know
into
that.
the
No,
buildings.
They're
in order
definitely.
to,
No, I
you
don't.
know,
I
so-
don't. I don't mean. I should.
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't have said it that way. I should have
Yeah.
added to that. But
Right.
it's more often. Let's put it that way.
Correct.
They're dealing with it. The cops are dealing with it on an everyday
Right.
occurrence.
Right.
You don't get that. I
Right.
don't mean to disparage
No,
the
no,
firemen
no.
whatsoever.
And-
I
and
know
fi-
a lot of firemen.
And fires have trended downward in the past 30 years because we have fire codes, we have fire prevention.
Right, right.
And that's a good thing. We're not having as many fires. But we're an old city in Providence.
Yes.
A lot of wood structure, a lot of close,
Right.
3 families.
Yeah, and if you had a fire in Providence, if you had a big fire in
it'd
Providence,
take
it
the
could be
block out.
it could be like Chelsea, Mass. Remember that big fire in
Yes,
Chelsea, Mass.
yeah,
years ago?
Yeah, it would go quick, and so they are well trained, they're well equipped, and they can put a fire out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
We have to, otherwise you'll have blocks on fire because it'll go that quickly.
Well, I'll tell you, they are well equipped because I was in New York City 4 days after 9/11. We had planned on going there actually before 9/11. I was there on Saturday, and I interviewed the canteen. Was down
yes.
there. The
Oh, it
Providence
was, yeah,
canteen
yeah.
was down
They
there.
do wonderful work.
They certainly do.
They
and
go all over the
great.
state.
I mean, that was unbelievable. I mean, they were in New York City. The whole crew was down there
Right.
volunteering their time. It was pretty cool.
And so one of the questions, both the difference and the focus, I always get asked, why do we send the fire engine to a rescue call?
I was going to ask you that question because the questions I'm asking you, by the way, are not my questions. These are questions people ask me to ask. So
And there's-
I'm playing the devil's advocate here. God,
And I too, prior to understanding
Wonder
the
why.
profession, why do we do that?
Why
The
do you need to
reason
send-
we do that
Right.
is we have 6 rescues, and for the number of rescue calls we get, we can't get there in quick time.
Right.
So our standard is
there's only 6 rescues in Providence.
there are only 6. So in
Why?
order to get to all our medical calls, we need to send our EMTs. All the firefighters are
Our
EMTs.
EMTs, yeah, right.
And so we send a ladder or an engine, so they're there within 4 minutes. They can assess the patient, and then if they need to be transported, we call a rescue. Otherwise, we wouldn't make that national standard in getting people,
Right.
and people will end up eventually dying. The bigger problem is our rescue service in the public sector has been overused. I'll give you a couple examples.
Same people calling about dumb things, about just because they want somebody to come and see them.
They want someone to come and see them. They have an earache that
Unbelievable.
They have a toothache, which just happened yesterday. Someone called.
Are
with
you
a toothache.
kidding me? They actually said they had a toothache?
We've had calls that I don't have a ride to my doctor's office. Could you come and get me to the hospital because he's at the hospital and I need to get that appointment. So we're trying to educate the public and say,
Well, here's your opportunity.
look, if you need us, call us.
Yeah,
We'll
for
come.
serious things, because
But
you're
if you-
taking away
Exactly.
from a what could be a serious situation when you
Absolutely.
call the rescue for. I can't even believe that somebody would call the rescue squad.
And there are other instances where, I've personally heard it. I get a call for a rescue to go to a person that's had severe back pain for 5 days, and now all of a sudden they want a rescue. To
Well,
get to
I
the
should do
hospital.
that
I'm
because
sure-
I have severe back pain all the time.
I
so
know
should do that.
they need to see a doctor. And
Right?
they need
Well,
transportation.
you
but
call a cab. That's what you call a cab.
can-
You don't call a rescue
we
squad.
can do it in a more efficient way, and that's what we're
Well,
trying
why
to
can't
do.
you charge those people?
It's complicated.
But seriously, when
Mm-hmm.
somebody's taking advantage of that, either it should be charged or they should be penalized in some way. Because again, that could be a life and death situation on the other side of the city,
Sure.
and a rescue cannot get there on time because they're dealing with some jabroni that's pulling. They want to ride.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
So we replicated what's been going on in other parts of the country.
Which is?
And particularly with emergency rooms.
Yep.
When you go to the emergency room for a primary physician, you're going to wait several hours.
Yep.
You're not going to die, but you may wait. So we're triaging.
Right,
And you
right.
call with that situation that's not a true emergency.
Right.
We may not say, hey, we're not coming.
We're
We
gonna
may
take our
say
time.
it's going to be in queue, and it may be 45 minutes.
Right.
Inevitably, people find alternative
And
transportation.
what you should do, if that's the case and it's not an emergency case, they shouldn't drop them off where they dropped off the rescue patients. They should drop them off right in the waiting room and let them wait like everybody
Look,
else. Because
that's-
that's probably why they call the rescue
There's
squad.
another myth that if you get transported by rescue into the ER, into the ED, the emergency
Right.
department, that you're going to go before everyone else.
That's not true?
It's not true. They triage. The worst cases
They
are seen,
Right.
and the less worst cases, if you will, are in queue. So if you have an earache, you may wait 4 or 5 hours, depending on the
I
time.
can't
of the
believe
day.
a toothache. I cannot believe a toothache. Calling the rescue squad for a toothache. That's amazing
Calling
to
the
me.
rescue because I have gout in my ankle.
Yeah, but they had gout yesterday and the day before. Why they got to call a rescue?
And so it's not.
Well,
it's
that's
not-
why there should be some way, instead of these reps and senators dealing with some of the stupid issues they've been dealing with and making them big issues. For instance, this trying to take away Pawtucket's right to ban pit bulls, as I started the show with. They should be dealing with something like this. This is a life and death
It
situation.
is. So two thoughts. The Senate created a commission to study what I refer to as frequent flyers, those who suffer from alcohol or substance
Right.
abuse. And we have some that use our transportation system over 150 times in one calendar year.
Same person.
Same person. And so
No,
we're
that's
not,
got to stop.
so
You can't do that.
we're not treating them like we should treat them. It's not working. So for whatever reason, they need a sandwich or they need to be seen by a doc. They're using the ED. It's costing Rhode Island Hospital, several $1,000s.
Right.
It's costing us, on average, for one transportation, $550.
But why? This is my point. Charge them, and they won't do it anymore. How about the
complicated.
first 3 are free for the year? After that, you be charged. What's wrong with that? If I was in the State House, if they would have elected me in the State House, that's what I would have. I would have proposed a bill like that.
And so the Senate Commission looked at a model out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and rather than taking these folks that are alcohol or substance
Right.
abusers and bring them to the ED and just continuous. We're going to, they've funded a pilot program like they do in Cambridge, Mass. And you take them to a site other than the emergency department.
Yeah, but you still gotta tie up that rescue squad to do it.
We do, but we're tying them up to go to, the ED. This will be quicker. It'll be a drop off, and then eventually the transportation component will be picked up by this entity
Right.
to free up our resources. But right now, we're going to transport, and eventually, like in Cambridge, they have a team with a van with social workers and nurses
Right,
go out,
right.
assess somebody on the street. You don't need the ED, you need a shelter, and you need housing, you need all these other things.
You need a brain.
Because there are about 200 of them in Providence that use our transportation system.
Oh, see, this makes me mad. You're making me mad here talking about this.
Don't
I
mean to make you
can't
mad, but those are the
believe that.
facts.
I just cannot believe that somebody would abuse the system and they don't get any thing happen to
Sanction.
them.
Well, a lot of these folks are uninsured.
Okay.
A lot of these folks,
Yeah.
struggle.
So call the, I don't know, call a social worker, call
It's-
somebody else.
It would be less expensive for Providence anyway, and in the entire state to give, and other communities have tried this, a $10 voucher for a taxi.
Exactly.
It'd be
It's
less
a lot
expensive.
cheaper than $550 or
Right,
whatever it costs.
right. And so we're working with our healthcare centers as well, because we have doctors that do the same thing. They're closing at 4, they have a patient, they're not sure where they need to go, and so they'll call our rescue. It's not an emergency. Call a private ambulance, call another mode of transportation. It's a whole education piece that we've been working on for nearly a year.
Because like you said, not only are they tying up the rescue, not only are they costing $500 and something for the rescue, but they're costing the hospital big money
Huge.
to
money.
go to the hospital.
And they're
$700,000, $800,000, $900,000 to go to the hospital.
They're tying up a bed, and
Right.
it's a drain.
Tying
our-
up a doctor, tying up nurses, tying up, it shouldn't be allowed. And if, it's like a kid. It's like when they took away corporal punishment with kids when we grew up. You grew up, did you go to a parochial school as a kid? I thought you might
I
have,
did.
because I did too.
Yep.
And we learn differently than the kids today, right or wrong.
No, the nuns took care
We
of
got did you get your knuckles whacked a few
Oh
times?
yeah,
Huh?
my ears as well.
Your ears?
Yep.
Oh, the
In the
ears
back
pulled.
of the-
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But we did that, and we're none the worse for wear from it. I mean, granted, some people go over the top with something like happened here in Pawtucket, and I don't know what actually happened, but the guy that killed that 10-year-old girl, and they found her with all kinds of bruises and whatever, a guy allegedly.
Horrific.
That's beyond acceptable. I mean, there's somebody that should, I'll take him out in the back, Give me a bat. I'll need a bat today, though. But, people like that, they need to be taken care of. But to take, when they flipped everything over, they changed, the pendulum shifted all the way to the other side where a father or a mother can't even yell at their kid without them, calling the cops or I'll call a lawyer, I'll sue you, and all that stuff. It's changed the whole
Right.
system in this
And
country.
so what we want to make sure is in our community in Providence, if you need us, please call. That's why we're there. Last thing I want is, grandma or mom to hesitate and say, well, Providence isn't sending a rescue anymore.
Right.
I want to go to the real emergencies, but we need to do something.
That's the key, though.
With the
A real emergency.
But if you have a severe ear rape, that could be your emergency. And so you're thinking, I need.
Okay.
And so there's an education there.
Exactly,
Look, are you going
exactly.
to die?
No.
Do you really need to get transported by a public rescue?
Right.
And if the answer is no, seek alternative transportation, because you may be freeing up that rescue to save someone that's either having a heart attack or is in a burning building that really needs medical care.
Right. And by tying up the rescue, you may have cost the life of somebody on the other side.
It's come pretty close over the years. On average, we were asking Pawtucket and Cranston and North Providence and East Providence to come into our city
And fill in.
a year and a half ago.
And what happened?
225 times in 1 month. mutual aid that we were calling, because if you call, we haul, and that's all. That was the motto.
You call, we haul, and that's all.
And that's all.
Now what has happened? I know some towns changed their attitude towards.
Yeah, Johnston and North Providence, the mayors talked to our mayor and myself and said, look, we just can't continue doing this.
Right.
It's jeopardizing the safety of our
Sure,
community.
you're taking.
And I didn't disagree with
right,
them.
you're
Said,
taking
yeah.
a rescue from their town.
But to change that, it took some time. And I couldn't do it on a dime. It took policy change, it took education, it took a whole lot of work because it's a culture. As I said, people expect when I call the rescue, I pay taxes in Providence,
right.
that rescue better come. What I'm saying is our 6 rescues are all tied up and they're not going to come. And you may have a true emergency and we're not going to get there. So we need to change how we deliver that services. And we have. So now we've cut that number from 200, 225 out-of-town rescues into the city of Providence every month. Today, it's less than 50.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's
50,
wonderful.
So it's a huge success.
So what's helping? Pawtucket, East Providence?
Pawtucket and East
Cranston?
Providence continue to come in, and Cranston.
Cranston.
You know, CF, we've had others, but North Providence will come in. Johnston, the agreement with Johnston was, look, if it's a true ALS, an advanced life support call, we'll come. We'll be there. But we can't come and pick up people in Kennedy Plaza who are frequent flyers and just continue to do that. It's a huge problem, but not only here in Providence, in the Northeast, it's across the country. So Boston has gone to an ALS. They categorize them as advanced life support, basic life support, and so
they base that on the
calls. The calls. If it's not a true ALS, we're not coming, and they use a private rescue for the non-emergency calls, so you can free up your resources.
Right, and then they have to pay the private ones, right?
Mm-hmm. The insurance will pay for the private. It will take another 12 months before we really structurally change how we're delivering that service.
So you took on a big job when you took on this job. Did you realize you were getting into all this stuff?
No,
You're
no.
dealing with the police, the fire, the 911. You're dealing with how about when we had a hurricane?
Mm-hmm.
When we had to deal with stuff like that,
Yes.
right? Didn't we have one in your time since you've been here?
Yep, we had.
You had to close the barrier. You had to close the barrier.
We're out there in the
Now,
barrier.
where were you from?
Where did I grow up?
Yeah, where you
I
from?
grew up in West Warwick.
In West Warwick.
Right on the Warwick line, off of Centerville Road.
Oh, where?
Off of Centerville Road.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So
There
are you
my-
you went to a
wizard.
Catholic school? Where'd you go to?
Well,
Catholic
yeah,
school?
I went to Christ the King first 8 years.
Right.
And then it closed. It was at the time where they were closing, and then I went to the high school, West Warwick High School.
Oh, so you're a warrior? What are they?
Wizard.
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 West Warwick Wizard. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember
right.
being in the hospital years ago. I had my back operated on. The kid was in there, and he must have been the star athlete or something because he had the cheerleaders coming in. He had all kinds of people coming in. He brought all the kids and everything. I brought all the food. I had friends from restaurants and stuff sending over all kinds of food.
That's your Italian, right?
Yeah.
Your
Oh,
Italian.
plus I had the connection with a lot of the restaurants. So
Right.
some of the restaurants would send over food and stuff and pastries and everything. The nurses loved it.
So, my career has been in law enforcement, 26 years
That's
in the state
unbelievable.
police. I went into the private sector for nearly 4 years, worked for G-Tech Corporation.
Right.
And then Angel Tavares, who was running and recruited me to the position of commissioner. It hadn't been filled.
I was just going to say 8 years.
Hadn't been filled. The mayor assumed the responsibility of commissioner.
Right.
So the police chief and the fire chief reported right into the mayor.
Well, didn't Buddy used to do that, right? He used to float around. He used to
Yeah,
drive around like he was a cop or something.
Mayor Sansi did have a commissioner. Poddington was his
yeah,
commissioner.
yeah. John Poddington.
Yeah, John.
Who
and there
was-
were a few others.
John Poddington was friendly with my mother.
Was he?
It was from
Yeah,
Cumberland.
God rest his soul.
He was from
A
Cumberland.
wonderful man.
Yes, he was. Very nice guy.
And so this mayor, Tavares, when he was running and campaigning, he said he thought it was important to have a commissioner.
Right.
And I was content. G-Tech's a wonderful place, wonderful people.
Why?
I
So
was
why?
doing
Why?
a little bit of traveling. Just fascinating. Coming from law enforcement your whole adult life. And
That's
as
all you
know-
want to do.
And and my dad was in law enforcement as well, so that's all I aspired to do.
Sure.
And then when I left the state police and worked for a company and dealt with and met people in the private sector, there's about 600 employees in Providence. It was a wonderful experience, a lot of good, hard-working people at GTEC. And I was happy and content, and the mayor's good at what he does, and he convinced me to join his team. And I haven't regretted it, although it's been a challenge.
And of course,
we were near bankrupt.
You were near bankrupt, plus you came right after a guy that left with, left you with some problems, I guess, right?
Yeah, when the administration came in, structurally we had about $110 million deficit.
Wow.
Structural. So that means, look, if you don't do anything, that deficit's going to continue year after year.
And it's very tough to do stuff and to change stuff and to improve things when you don't have any money.
Police didn't have a contract for the past 4 years.
Right.
Fire just settled a contract within the last 2 years of us coming in, so they were under contract, and now we had to go in and negotiate and get concessions.
Right, restructure contracts.
Huge concession.
Right.
Otherwise, we were near, receivership, and we were going to go over the brink. And once we convinced them, when I say we, our financial people and the mayor, look, here are the books. Here's what we have.
You got, yeah.
And
can't get blood out of a stone.
You can be a part of the solution, or the alternative is somebody else is going to dictate what your salary will be, what your pension will be.
Kind of like they did in Central Falls.
CF went through the same thing, and it wasn't good, it wasn't pretty. So luckily we had union leadership that understood.
Right.
And came to
Which
the
was
table.
nice to see. Which was nice to see. Because they could have played hardball with
They could
you.
have, and,
And bit their nose to spite their face, so to speak.
They've been told for years, no money, no money, no money, and now we really don't have any money, and we need a solution out of this huge problem. And luckily, not only police and fire, but the teachers as well,
right.
And our 1033 civilian union and employees. I mean, everyone sacrificed pretty greatly, because when you sign up and you think, here are my benefits, here's my
right.
pension, and then it changes.
But that's pretty sad, by the way, that they can do that.
You feel for them.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
What's the alternative?
Yeah.
Go into bankruptcy?
Yeah.
That certainly was an option, but that would have really devastated the state. So I applaud, as hard as it is for them to give up a whole lot of benefits. They did it, and we were able to reduce that $110 million deficit to nearly zero.
That's amazing. That's a credit.
And I credit the mayor. The mayor led that charge, and Michael D'Amico and Larry and a whole lot of other people on the team really worked to change that structural deficit. And we're not out of the woods. I mean, people think that, okay, we've survived and now we're strong. The economy is still sluggish, unemployment's still high, and the revenue on the city side isn't robust. So we're not flush with money. We'll get by, we'll make payroll, but
well,
we
at least
really
you can
haven't.
make payroll, though.
And that's a good thing.
That's huge.
That's huge. There were times that the cash flow we weren't quite sure.
Giving them bad checks.
Yeah. So we're heading in the right direction once the economy, and we're always waiting for that economy to turn, but once it does and we start having more employment and more businesses, moving in, we're going to be better off.
All right, well, let's switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
Let's talk about the problems you have, because you're loaded with problems over there that you have to deal with, and you're dealing with it. The clubs, the nightclubs. You have issues with the nightclubs. I mean, I used to frequent them. I'm still a single guy. I'm an older guy, but I'm a single guy, and I frequented that area down there in Richmond Street and over there.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Actually, I mostly don't even go in the clubs because I don't drink, but I like to hang out with the guys, the vendors, bowl with them outside and catch all the action. I like all the action.
Right.
One thing I could never understand, the 18 and over thing. I still could never. I used to be in the pub business, and I could never understand how they allow. You can be 18 and over to go in a club, but you have to be 21 and over to drink. I think you're automatically asking for trouble by allowing 18. They put a ban on the 18-year-olds, or vice versa, put a ban on the over 21-year-olds. But the fact of the matter is, a guy wants to hook up with an 18, 19-year-old girl, and the girl wants to drink. There you go. They're making it easy. And a lot of the clubs I noticed, they would let the 18-year-old girls in, but not the 18-year-old guys. And if I was 18 back in the day and they did that to me, I'd have their butt in court.
Yeah, so it's an interesting both law that we have in the state. You can be 18 and you can enter, these clubs.
Doesn't that create a huge problem for you guys?
It creates a huge underage drinking problem.
Yeah, because you can go to any of those clubs at closing time. Or if you went to any of those clubs during opening time, you'd end up shutting it down. But if you just park outside, and I'm sure you have, at closing time, you see these 18, 19-year-old girls and guys come out. They're drunk. How'd they get drunk if they had the band around? Because somebody else bought them the booze.
Right.
If they weren't in there, it wouldn't happen.
Right. So here's my response. The people that we're having trouble with in these clubs are not 18 to 21-year-olds.
Who are they? Out-of-towners?
24 to 30-year-olds.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Those are the people generally that we have, whether it's a gunfight, a knife fight, or a fist fight. Those are the people that we have trouble with. Look,
now that surprises me.
Look, what causes us problems is when they pack these clubs over capacity and they overserve.
Right.
Quite simple. You get drunk people and they're too packed.
And bump
and
into
you're
somebody.
You're going to get a fist fight.
It's going to be a fight.
When I got here, I met with all the club owners and said, look, you got to be a part of the solution. There was a feeling that, look, inside the club, we take care of it. Outside the club, it's the city's problem.
Right.
I said,
No,
it doesn't work that way.
No.
You need to be a part of the solution. So your security needs to be effective. It needs to communicate with our detail officers that are outside. We got to work together to make a better, safe environment. And the majority of the club owners, look, they're business people.
Sure. They don't want to be closed down.
They don't want to be closed down. We don't want to close them down either. But there needs to be safety, and that's been our focus. So we've done a couple things. This soft closing.
The staggered closing?
The staggered closing. At the time, you dump several thousand people in that Richmond Street, Pines, you identified exactly where there's 6 or 7 or 8 clubs.
Right.
And then at 2 o'clock closing, the mentality
they'd all
is
pile out.
Push them out the door, close the door, we're done with them. And now
it's
the Providence Police have
Police's problem.
1,500 people at 2 o'clock,
and
they're angry because they just left their $8 bottle of beer.
Or they didn't get lucky. Or the guys didn't get lucky.
Whatever.
So now they got to get in a fight if they didn't get lucky.
Whatever that is. And so we went to what they call a soft closing. You got to be in the club by 1. Everyone stops serving at 2, but you can stay till 3 to drink your drink. So we're not forcing you as
So wait a minute, they all don't close at 3.
No, only those large capacity clubs, there's 7 or 8 of them in that area that have the ability, and they all took advantage of it.
Sure.
They're not making any money because from 2 to 3,
they can't serve any booze.
They can't.
All right.
But the difference is you don't have a thrust of people being pushed out of all those clubs.
Because they start leaving as they
turn the lights up,
2:20.
Turn the lights up at 2:15. Turn the music down. They know how to run a club.
Right.
Get the people calm.
Well, especially if they're not making any drinks. But are they doubling up their drinks at 1:45 or 2 o'clock?
No, that's an area we said you can't have 6 drinks delivered. We haven't found that. We haven't found an abuse with any of the clubs trying to beat. Look, we've gone back to them and said, look, your music is still up. Your lights are down at 2:45. That's not the intent of this. You got to work with us here and start turning the music down at 2:15, 2:20, and turning the lights up because it calms the people.
Right.
You get that loud music in the darkness, and then you just turn it all up. They're human beings, and now they're wired. Calm them down, help us so they get out of there in a safe way. So it's had a positive impact, at least at closing.
Well, Barry's had the right idea. Remember Barry's?
I remember Barry's, but I didn't stay out till 2 o'clock too often.
Oh, come on now.
No.
You're down that area. Yeah. That was Warwick. You're West Warwick, right at the line there. Barry's, if you don't know. And I
remember him, I remember the club.
And he was a young kid when he started. He was only like 19 years old when he started that club. Well, he used to offer hamburgers and stuff to eat, and I think they were free.
Yeah.
just to get people some food in them before they got in their cars and killed somebody.
Right, so there's always a balance between a vibrant nightlife. You don't, the city doesn't want to close down all that. It's a wonderful
No, you need
city.
it. You need it.
You need it, but there's got to be a balance. There's got to be a responsibility so people feel safe. The worst thing that happens is when we have a shooting or stabbing in one of the nightclubs.
Right.
People from Warwick or Westerly, they read, stabbing in Providence.
They don't want to
I'm
go
not
there.
going to Federal
That's
Hill.
right, absolutely.
I'm not going to the East Side for
Right.
a restaurant. I'm not going to, the South Side. They just, and so that hurts.
Absolutely,
our business
it hurts everybody.
community.
It hurts. It hurts all the businesses there in that area when that happens.
Right.
And unfortunately, it has happened.
Right.
Now, how do you deal with the gangs? How's the gang situation in Providence?
We have gangs. They're neighborhood gangs. It's not a nationally syndicated.
They're not
gangs.
like tied in with
the Latin. We had Latin Kings here.
Right.
We've had other, but for the most part, we have local neighborhood gangs. And some of these, I call them kids, but they're young adults. They don't know how to deal with conflict resolution. So one person upsets another person for something silly.
Yeah, I know, and they want to kill them over it.
They get a gun, and they settle that score with a gun. And the damage it does to both the victim and eventually the defendant
And their families.
it's life-changing.
Oh, it's astronomical.
They don't understand what they do to their families, but that's what we have. So we try to do as much as we can to both intercept and intercede with gangs and talk to these young kids, show them there's an alternative, show them people care about them, that people love them, because a lot of these kids, that's what they have. That's where they get their love from.
Right.
Is gangs,
Well,
neighborhood gangs.
Exactly. A lot of them
don't have parental.
Right. A lot of them, again, two
influence,
things.
right.
Either they don't have the father in the house, or they don't have anybody that's disciplining them. And I think it's human nature. Like we go back to our grammar school days with the nurses whacking you in the back of the hand with the pointer or whatever.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't cool that they did that.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, I mean, I was a punk when I was in school. It kept me in line a little bit, you know? Some of them went over the top. I used to have this one nun, I remember her today, 40 years later, I still remember her. She'd slap me in the face almost daily. And she only did it because, what'd you do that for? You're smiling, you must have did something wrong. Because I smile, like you. So you must have got whacked a few times just for smiling, because they think you must have did something wrong. Right. So that's like the other side of the coin. But like I said, the pendulum has totally shifted. Now these kids are ruling in their own houses. They're not taking, if they got a father in the house, they're not listening to him, or the father doesn't have any rule over them. And they go out and they join the gang. And guess what? As you know, the gang leader runs a tight ship in most cases. You know, they brutalize them if they get out of hand. I mean, look at what happened with Hernandez thing. I mean, it's got to all come out eventually. It's got to be tied in with some kind of a gang situation there, with all the tattoos and everything. And supposedly he was mad at the guy that got killed because he was talking to somebody else. I think there's more to that, though. I actually think that he was afraid that he was thinking on that other murder of the two people, and I think there was something involved. There was some involvement there, because they found that other vehicle with shell casings in it in Connecticut, the Humvee, and it's the same kind of shell casings that were involved in the murder of those two people that were killed months earlier or a year earlier or whatever.
So our neighborhood gangs have access to way too many guns in the street.
Right.
And when you mix a conflict, it's a huge issue for them when on the street they were disrespected, whatever the motive is. They were insulted.
In your territory.
Now they need to get
no more fist fights.
Credibility.
No more like when we were kids.
You're not going to walk over on me. And so no fist fights, no, hey, let's straighten this out. It comes to getting a knife and getting a gun and shooting at a house or a car. And unfortunately, they hit people
innocent people
have nothing to do with the beef.
Right.
We got to give these kids hope. We got to give them an understanding that there's more to just joining a gang, despite what their plight is in life. That they don't see any job opportunity. their education, whether they continue or they drop out. And so that's all they have is their little neighborhood, and they hustle and make money. We need mentors. We need people to intercede with these young, because it's a waste of life when they start taking guns and shooting at one another and dying on the streets at age 21 and 2 and 3.
Right.
What a waste of human life. And so
you said, for no reason. I mean, for the most ridiculous of reasons.
It's amazing what initiated, what started some of these beefs. It's just absolutely amazing. But that's what happens. And it escalates. And now there's a mini war that goes on between neighborhoods, and people are dying senselessly.
Right,
and,
right.
You know, we've tried to, you know, and I'm a strong proponent of the Second Amendment. If you want to own a gun, you can own 50 guns. You can own 5,000 guns. I don't care. But you have a responsibility to the community, if you own that many,
right,
to lock them down. You shouldn't, people shouldn't have easy access, whether it's a visitor or a family member or somebody that breaks into your home or business. It should be real difficult to steal those guns. And a lot of the guns that hit the street are from either house breaks or people out of state buying a whole cache of weapons and coming and selling them on the black market.
Well, in that case, that should be a huge penalty. I mean, the sentence should be huge for somebody doing that, because, again, you're talking about the possibility of not only killing another gang member, killing innocent people, even with just stray bullets. These crazies that are just shooting these MAC-10s and shooting AKs and whatever, all these different guns that are either automatic or semi-automatic and just blasting away.
Look, you know, an AK-47 has no business on the streets of America.
Anywhere,
none, zero.
Anywhere.
On the battlefield, fine, but not on the streets of America.
We had this discussion. I had this discussion with a friend the other day. I'm a gun owner, and I used to be a hunter. I'm not a hunter anymore. I wouldn't kill anything today. I mean, years ago, I might have shot a rabbit or something, a pheasant or whatever. But even today, I wouldn't even do that. But what I always knew, even as a hunter, you could only have 3 rounds in any gun, whether it be a shotgun or a 30-06 or a 30-30 or whatever you're shooting, or 22. You could only have 3 rounds. What in God's name do you need 100 rounds in a gun for?
You don't.
There's nothing. And even if you go to target ranges, and I have many times, you cannot rapid fire. They don't allow it.
Right.
So why do you need 100 rounds or even 30 rounds in a clip? And by the way, if you're going hunting with a gun with 30 rounds in it, you must be a real bad shot. That you got to use 30 rounds to take down a deer or take down a pheasant or a quail or something.
Look, there's a problem when our criminals have access to guns that are more powerful
than your guns.
Than our police.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what we're faced with. When I was a young trooper 30-some years ago, we didn't wear a bulletproof vest. Didn't need to.
No, you didn't have to.
Now,
no.
Today, any police officer that doesn't wear a bulletproof vest while it's in uniform is just at a high risk.
Absolutely.
Absolute high risk. Why? Because we have, too many bullets and too many guns in the street. They'll pierce, the bulletproof vest.
Right.
And we're outgunned. So we carry whatever it may be, 15 rounds in our pistol.
Right.
We're up against an AK that could have 50 rounds in a banana clip.
Yep.
And so we're outgunned.
Or double 30s.
We shouldn't be outgunned on the streets of America.
Nope, they shouldn't have them.
And we can do it in a responsible way without upsetting people that
the Second Amendment people. Yeah.
Look, we have a right to bear arms, and so we certainly do.
Right.
But there are restrictions. You can't own a machine gun in this country.
Exactly.
You have to be licensed, and it has to be. So very few machine guns. Well, that's a gun. You don't have a right to it.
Right.
Nor should you have a right to those high capacity rifles.
Magazines, or not only rifles, but the magazines, because you can get I have Glocks. You can get a Glock with a long clip. They get a clip like that, 50-round clip in a damn Glock. It's crazy.
Right.
There's no need for that.
Right. And another area in which we should be doing a better job in Rhode Island is keeping guns out of the hands of people that are mentally challenged.
That's huge.
And that's huge. We shouldn't allow, and we should protect them as much as what their struggles are and what they intend on doing if they get a gun. Now the situation in Connecticut. Now he got access to his mom's guns. He had some challenges mentally.
Right.
And now we give him the weaponry.
Well, him and his mom used to go shooting together, it appears, anyway, right?
So there's a responsibility of gun owners to keep them from the hands of people.
Right.
And even if someone is temporarily challenged with their psychological well-being, there's got to be a mechanism where our doctors can immediately restrict people from getting access.
Sure.
Because it could happen very quickly. And if someone's being treated by a psychiatrist and they feel as though he's in danger or she's a danger to themselves or others, there's got to be a way that we can protect that person and protect him or her from getting guns.
And protect society. What if they made all the guns where they only worked when that person had their hand
No,
on it?
there is some technology that we should
There
be
is
taking,
that technology.
taking
But if they
advantage
did that,
of.
you would take away the possibility of somebody robbing a gun from a house and using that gun. They couldn't use the gun.
I know.
All right,
Yeah,
now that we've totally scared the heck out of people, what about anybody who wants to become a fireman or a policeman in the city of Providence?
Yeah, we just finished, as I said, a recruitment drive, both in the police and fire. We ran an academy on the fire side.
Yep.
We'll be graduating 50 or so young men and women. There's another one starting up in about 2 weeks. So go up on our website if you'd
Which
like.
is?
www.providenceri.com. It'll take you to either the fire or the police link.
Right.
And then you can find out about both departments.
What's the age limit on police department? 36? Is it that high?
Hiring?
Yeah.
There's no age.
Oh, there is no.
There is no
So I can
age.
go
You
sign
can
up.
go.
All
You can
right,
go.
I'm going to sign up.
You may not make it to get your pension, but you can sign up. But typically,
Oh, wait a minute. I'm not going to make the psychological?
no,
or
well, I don't know about that.
the physical, I definitely won't make.
But for you to do 20 years and get a pension, back that off of age 60, so 40 and,
Right,
and
right.
et cetera. So we've had persons, people, mostly male, age 33, 35, 36, and we're just finishing our first phase of the police recruitment. So we'll be running a police academy in the next couple months.
Oh.
We'll be hiring, we'll be running probably 50 recruits through that academy.
And there's no resident requirement.
There's no residency for the city of Providence.
Right,
You
there
have
was
to
for a
retire.
while, or they tried to put one
There
in.
was for a while, and you have to retire at age 63.
Oh, okay.
On the police side.
Okay.
So it's a wonderful job. Both police and fire, vastly different. The missions are completely different.
Sure.
But
Yeah. Well, like we talked about on the onset.
right.
And I didn't mean to disparage any group. I
No,
know
no,
they're
no.
totally different.
Look, I come from law enforcement, so I hear it from my firefighter guys that, look, I favor the police. And
Yeah.
Then I hear
yeah,
it from my
yeah.
police guys, you don't know your roots and you're on the fire side.
Oh, I'll tell you one thing I was asked. I was asked to ask you. Why do the firemen have to take a fire truck to the supermarket? I've been asked that question so many times. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Well, you got to understand, they live in the station, so
Right.
they work, a long day,
Right.
and they have to eat.
But
And so-
why they got to take a hook and ladder to the Shaw's Market, a Stop and Shop, a Save Right? I don't want to miss anybody.
Yeah, no. So look, they need to get groceries, and they need to, they
Okay,
prepare
again, I
their
was
own
told that, and
No, I know.
I was told the response to that, or the next question to that is, why can't they designate one guy or one woman to go there in their car before they come into work with the list of stuff and buy it then?
Look, a lot of them do that.
they
A lot of
really?
them bring, their supplies in. Absolutely. I want them in the community. I want them out talking to people.
Right,
I
right.
want them. We had a controversy that prior to us taking office, there was a fire engine
Went to
in
Warwick.
Cranston.
It was
Warwick.
Cranston.
Yeah.
Cranston. I think they
And-
went to Warwick Shores or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, that's why it
Look,
was brought up.
Look, you got to stay in the
That's a little
community, right?
ridiculous.
We train down in Exeter, so you'll see a fire engine going
In
down
Exeter.
95 into Exeter because we train down
Well,
there.
that's
so,
different.
But
That's
when you're in a market or you're doing some things, look, stay in the city of Providence.
Yeah, it would make
Be
sense.
responsible.
Right.
As a result of what happened several years ago, they were restricted in using the engines but for calls.
Right. So
I
they
said,
couldn't even
"Look,
go to the market
They couldn't even
anymore.
go to the market. Or they just need to use good judgment.
All right, we're running close on time, so I want to run through a few other things.
Sure.
The thing I really have a problem with, and I really think this is nothing you really can do about it. Well, on the enforcement side you can, but not on, I think they got to strengthen the laws against graffiti. Graffiti causes so much damage in my eyes, in my mind, as a realtor.
Yes.
Because you put graffiti on this building, it lowers the value of the buildings around it.
Sure. I agree. They're so difficult to catch.
Yes.
These artists, and they are.
Yeah, but they got names. I mean, they tag them.
They do.
The fools tag their own names.
They do, and we try to identify the groups and identify. We've been successful with some of them.
I know,
And
but the punishment's not
the
harsh
damage.
enough.
Well,
What
you're
do
right.
they do?
There's-
Fine them or something?
And so
Send them on their way?
in Providence, the mayor has had a graffiti team go out and remove it. So
Right.
as quick as you can remove it, it takes the effect. And so we have to be as persistent. If you put it up, we're taking it down. Put it
Right.
up, we're going to take it down.
Right.
Because the longer you keep it up, then the neighborhood becomes, sprayed with graffiti.
Sure.
So we, on the law enforcement side, as I said, they're tough to catch. These kids are good with their spray cans, and they're pretty artistic.
And you see, I don't mind when it's nice, when it's done right,
Right.
it's an artist, let them do it.
Right.
But the stuff, they just trash in places. And
I agree. It's difficult, and we try to remove it quickly. That's the best.
But exactly. But again, I think the legislatures in this, the legislature in this state, it's got to get a little heavy-handed on stuff like that. That's what bothers me, because it really, really, really diminishes the value of properties when they see the graffiti. The next thing you get graffiti on one building, you're going to get on another building in that area. Once they start doing it. And I'm not talking Providence. This is all over.
So what do you want to do? Throw them in jail?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. No, I want to catch them, and I want to make them take it off. I want them over there painting, because I actually did that to somebody painting my garage.
Yes.
I got outside one day, and my new garage door is all sprayed, big double door. And one of the kids in the neighborhood goes, I said to the kid, "Who did that? Do you know anybody who did that?" He goes, "Oh, no." And I knew he did, so I kept asking me. He goes, "Oh, I don't want to say. I don't want to get." He was afraid, obviously.
Sure.
I said, "Well, who did it? Just tell me who did it." He goes, "Well, it's a gang, and he's tagged the street. Now he owns the street." I go, "He does? Who is he? Because I got to get my tax bill. If he owns the street, then he's got to pay my taxes for me." And I end up getting it out of him, who he was, where he was. And I went with the police over to his house, and we convinced him in a nice way to come over my house and paint my garage door.
Wonderful. What I'd like to see is us getting tougher on gun possession.
That was next. That was my next question.
New York did this. If
New
you
York's
remember
harsh.
25 years ago
Right.
in New York,
It was bad. New York
wild,
was
wild
like
west.
Chicago
Bad.
is now.
What did they do? They changed the culture. So whether you're a professional athlete or football player carrying a gun in New York City, you're looking at time.
Right.
And until we change that culture here, we take off about 125 guns every year from the streets of Providence. Some have, people that possess them. Others, we find the guns in the city. We aggressively go after them. We try to incarcerate them, but there's no fear in carrying a gun in the city of Providence until we start creating that fear, that culture of fear.
And again,
in
that
the
goes to
criminal
the
elements,
legislature, right?
the judiciary, and there
Well,
were
they
9
gotta make the
bills.
laws
There were
first.
9 bills that were proposed. Some of them were good. We're not going to arrest our way out of this, but we should follow what New York did and get tough on gun possession.
No doubt about it. Thanks for coming.
A lot of interesting topics.
It was fun.
Yeah.
And folks, thank you for spending an hour with Bob.